Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel and welcome to some discussion about the Panther 2. This vehicle has had, I think it's fair to say, a rather shady history within War Thunder over its lifetime. Prior to, I can't remember exactly how many, 3 or 4 patches I think, something like that. Before the Leopard A1A1 was added, this vehicle used to be the second highest medium tank in the German line for ground forces, second only to the Leopard 1. Back then, it had a battle rating of 6.7. Now, when I used to be in the Desert Rats, we were one of the few squadrons that actually used to use medium tank tactics to our advantage. The majority of squadrons that we used to fight against usually used to stick to heavy tanks. Back then, the poison of choice was the T-32, until that received a nerf and ended up going to 7.0 and is now at currently, I believe, 7.3, which is utterly ridiculous. My weapon of choice, however, was the Panther 2. Me and one other player, usually in a T-44 or a T-44-100, would flank around where the enemy team were supposed to be or where we were expecting them to be and engage them from the side and the rear. The Panther 2 is a dramatic improvement over the other Panthers. You get a much more powerful engine, a better gun. You get the 88mm from the Tiger. I think it might be the Tiger 2's 88mm actually. You get fantastic shells. The German APHE shells are amazing, or at least they are at 6.7. Now though, it has a battle rating of 7.0, and I haven't really touched it much since it went to 7.0 several months ago, which is upsetting really, because this thing used to be the pinnacle of my lineup at 6.7. I had the Tiger 2, the Tiger 2 SLA, the Kugel Blitz, although that got up tiered as well. That's now at 7.0. And I used to thoroughly enjoy playing this tank. The armour is decent, although the chassis is not too much different from the standard Panther. As a matter of fact, I'm fairly certain it's the same. You do get the small turn turret, which, although it turns faster than the Panther D, is still, that's not saying much. It still doesn't rotate particularly quickly. The vehicle is mobile, has a fast reverse rate, something that many Panther drivers will be more than thankful for after driving the earlier ones with their 4 or 5 km/h reverse rate, which allows you to get out of trouble just as quickly as you're able to get yourself into it, because this vehicle is very fast and very mobile for what it is. But at 7.0, you tended to get up tiered a lot. You're fighting at 8.0. However, since the last patch, when Gaijin thankfully decided to uncompress the top tier matchmaker, this isn't so much an issue anymore, I'm happy to say. It's not the legend that the Panther 2 used to be when it was at 6.7, but it's certainly improved drastically. The vehicle now either gets a 7.0 or a 7.7 game, so you're not facing maximum up tier anymore. Or at least I didn't in the time I was recording footage for this video. I never saw any Leopard A1A1s on my team, or Leopard 1s for that matter. Although maybe I did see a Leopard 1 once or twice, but it wasn't, do you see what I'm saying? It wasn't the regular matchmaking. It's a similar story with the Americans and the 7.7 lineup that they have. The M60, the M103, they more or less get down tiered more than they get up tiered now, or at the very least they get their own tier.
Most of the strategic zones are captured.
I do love this tank. There's still a soft spot in my heart for it, although it's not, like I said, it's not the beast it used to be. And all of the infrared lights and what have you that we have on the top of the Panther are basically just there to stop your gun depression when your barrel is facing directly 12 o'clock forward over the frontal plate. You can't access the gun depression that way. You have to have the vehicle on a slight angle in order to get the barrel down and take advantage of its maximum gun depression. This is fine until you consider that the side armour on this thing is dreadful at this tier. It's utterly, utterly awful. I have noticed though that due to it being at 7.0 and the M46 pattern being at 7.0, The M46 Patton drivers tend to fire the majority of their shells being heat fin stabilized, which doesn't do particularly well against add-on armor or tracks, which basically act as spaced armor. If they hit the tracks directly, rather than hitting the road wheels, chances are all it'll do is blow your tracks off. The superheated jet of copper from the high explosive anti-tank rounds can penetrate your side armor as well and go into the crew compartment or the engine deck or wherever else they're trying to hit you. But unless they hit you in the turret, which... that was a bad shot, by the way, I should have never done that. Unless they hit you in the turret, which has always been the weak spot of most of the German tanks anyway. The Tiger IIs, the Tiger, the Panthers immediately spring to mind. They near enough don't do any damage from the side, so long as... yeah, I can't say that it always happens, because it is more luck than judgment on their part, whether they penetrate or whether they don't. Nevertheless, I do think it's time that we dust off the Panther 2, we give it a new lease of life, we look at it once again, forget what it was like at 6.7, it's no longer that machine, but at the same time, it's better than it used to be when it went to 7.0. You know, when it first went to 7.0, it's nowhere near as bad as that. It's now more of a feasible machine than it was then. So that aside, what are my recommendations for when you're driving your Panther 2s now? Or if you're trying to unlock it? Well, you're going to unlock it anyway. It's not like a premium vehicle where you have the option of unlocking it or not. You will unlock this tank eventually if you're grinding down the German tech tree. I highly recommend driving it, and try to use it as a sniper. Don't do what I'm doing in these videos and push it straight toward the enemy, because that doesn't usually end very well for you. That hit there was a heat shell. Didn't penetrate. Anyway, don't drive this vehicle like a heavy. It's not a heavy. It may not be as mobile as some of the mediums that you're going to be fighting, but it most certainly is not as heavily armoured as some of them either. It's a vehicle that requires some finesse, some planning, some tactics. It's not something that you can just throw directly at the enemy, even though, as the saying goes, throw enough shit at the wall and some of it is eventually going to stick. That isn't the case here. Plan out what you want to do, look at the map, use your map knowledge, which you should have plenty of by now, to know where the enemy team is going to be going, and use that to your advantage. Now this bit I left in, this is quite amusing. That SGRV doesn't notice me, the IS-3 doesn't notice me. Well, he does, but it takes him his sweet ass time. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a bit of a short one, but I figured you deserve some content today, so here we are. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to like, share and subscribe. It really does help out the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next War Thunder video. Cheers!